Hi friends, it's Carly and I'm back again with another review. So we are moving our way through the G.I. Joe Classified series as I'm able to find figures. Hopefully I continue to be able to find them. The stores are just completely sapped of Joes right now. I have no Baroness yet. I'm still waiting on Destros, but I'm going to keep at it. I have plenty of other toys to talk about. But if you have not yet picked up your first wave of the G.I. Joe Classified series, you can pre-order those now at BBTS. I'm going to include a link in the description. It's $104.99 for the first 5. It's a great deal. I highly recommend pre-ordering these as they announce waves from here on out. That's what I will be doing. I do love the hunt. I love the thrill of the chase, but it's getting a little bit crazy now, and I'm seeing scalpers with dozens of these things stacked up trying to sell them in groups. So I feel like the best way going forth is just to get those pre-orders in. That's what I'm doing. This isn't anything new with popular lines, but it's getting a little bit crazy out there. So with all of that said, let's just skip all the nastiness and get to the good stuff and take a look at Scarlett. So I have been really excited to talk about this figure. I've been playing with her a lot. As you can see, I kind of have her in a pose because I wanted to experiment with her accessories and see how everything sort of fits together with her. As far as female action figures go, I feel like I'm really optimistic about what the Joe series, the Classified series, will bring to an action figure. It's still Hasbro. There are things that we've talked about in the past that I've been bothered by, like a turning bicep, some points of articulation that I've always expressed and I still continue to believe aren't being put on these female action figures as a function, or as a result, I should say, of the small frame. That some of these mechanics of these particular articulate points just won't work on a smaller action figure. So we're going to explore, though, what types of differences I see in the G.I. Joe Classified series Scarlett versus what I'm seeing in the Marvel Legends line with some of the female characters. Now, we just came off of a really insanely positive video with a female action figure, Rogue, that I was absolutely in love with, but I did mention in that video that nothing new really happened with the body and the mold. So they didn't really bring anything new to the table. It was just well put together for what we get from Marvel Legends lines, and I loved that figure. I'm really excited about looking at Scarlett. I have really high hopes for what we should be able to see from her, and so we're going to get really into the nitty-gritty details of everything to do with this figure in this review. So here she is, and you know, one of the most awesome things about Scarlett is not only that she she's a martial artist. She has all kinds of talents and additional abilities. She is the only one member of the Joes who actually has classified information that she doesn't share with any other member of the team. So she is entrenched in some stuff. She's a really awesome character. I mean, just the more you get to know about her, like even just do a cursory Google, because this is a really fun character and it's fair to expect a lot from what she should be able to do. So we see that her weapon is a like little handheld crossbow. She's got this knife sheath here, and then she's got her quiver with arrows. These are all molded on, so this is all sculpted into her quiver. They are not removable. And then 2 more knives that are removable. So the pose that I put her in, I really wanted to see if she would be able to strike a pose where she was reaching over her shoulder and getting a knife out. And as you see, she can. So we are going to take her out of this funny pose and sort of look at these accessories one by one. She's got 2 serrated knives like this. These are the ones that are in the quiver in her back, like on her back. And they are, I'm not sure if these are the same as what we got with Snake Eyes, but they're sturdy. They're sturdy, nice little black serrated knives. She can hold them in her hand really well. So I have no issues or problems with those accessories. Her crossbow, as you can see, she easily holds in her hand. And it's a simple piece. It actually comes in 2 parts like this. And the top actually just sort of snaps on. It doesn't snap on, it sort of like sits on. It's a really loose mechanic, but you just sort of lay it down and then click the bow part, like the string, back into this little notch here. So it's really easy to put together. It fits in her hand nicely. Once it's together, it stays together, so I'm fine with that. I'm gonna tell you guys why I'm sort of going over everything and why I keep saying I'm fine with that in just a second. And then she's got this little knife right here across her chest. This is not serrated. So when you get your figure, she will have all 3 of her knives separated out. They'll be in the package sort of like this. So the serrated ones go in her back quiver, and the non-serrated short bladed knife goes into the sheath on her chest. That's worth noting because with Snake Eyes, his particular weapons did not fit, or his knife did not fit into the sheath. So I wanted to explore whether that was an issue across the line or not. It is not. Hers works perfectly. And I'm going to explore on my own later, something you guys might want to do as well, if any of her knives actually fit into his sheath. So maybe we can solve that issue that way. So the reason that I'm really sort of going over all of these additional accessories with such a fine-tooth comb is because I had heard that there was something wrong with this figure, that something that really didn't work. This is just sort of like rumors, you know, flying around. And I never try to get a ton of opinions before I look at a figure because I want to give my honest opinion, you know, my honest, just as a friend talking to friends. Would I buy this figure? What do I like about it? What do I not? I try not to be influenced, but I had heard these whispers. And so I've been waiting for kind of the ball to drop with Scarlett, which is an unfortunate feeling to have, but I'm really happy to say that it hasn't. So all of her accessories, I was able to figure them out easily. I was able to use them easily. So that's the first part of what I was looking at with her. When we're looking at the facial sculpt, I like her facial sculpt. I do feel like she looks a little bit young. I think they're airing young on her features. That's just an opinion. I think she should look maybe, I get the snark look sort of, but I still feel like she should just look a little bit more worldly than she does. And there is, you know, she's a redhead, so she's very fair, but there is something a little bit translucent about her face, and her hair is such a carroty red. Next to the translucence of her skin, it all seems to be a little bit too light. Like they should have made it more of an auburn color. I'm saying this again, I'm sort of like really trying to like look with a critical eye. That is something that kind of does bother me, but she has these really cute freckles. Her eyes are painted beautifully. They didn't scrimp on the details that they put on her. So while I do think that the skin tone on this is a little bit translucent, she would be fair, but I think that they could have added a little bit of depth to her skin tone just to make it, make her easier to read, like for instance on camera in photographs. It's a beautiful sculpt. The hair is fantastic. They give her some really pretty little blonde highlights. The smattering of freckles across her cheeks is adorable. I wish she looked a little bit older, but is this a good looking female sculpt? Absolutely, I'm really happy with it. So again, I still haven't seen any issues. So with her head, the points of articulation on this are as good as the Joes have been. And there's even a little feature that I noticed that I'm gonna check my other ones to see if they have, because it's a really cool function for getting good poses on the torso. But the head, she has a really long ponytail, so we get great movement in the head, and there's no issues with the ponytail, you know, and her quiver. You can easily manipulate it and turn in any direction and get some sort of all different types of expressive poses, so that's really great. Now, her arms might be a different story. I'm gonna pop off her head so that I can, wait, actually, can I pop off her head? Yeah. So I can take off her quiver so that we can look a little bit closer at what goes on with the other points of articulation here. So she has this shoulder guard here with the Joe star, and it does hinder the movement a little bit on that arm. But it seems like we're not getting a really great height with either of her arms. This looks like about what we can expect. So, I mean, that's kind of typical. It's a little bit frustrating that we're getting that with her and we haven't on the other Joes, but again, because of this teeny tiny frame, I think that's just how it has to be sometimes. She does have the really great turning elbows, so you can get all different types of poses. She has the waving function rather than sort of the forward and back on her wrist, and that's for manipulating her weapon. But I'm not surprised by that, and I'm not particularly bothered by it either. It doesn't hurt the figure for me that her arms don't go all the way up, but you know, I always do mention whenever there's an accessory that hinders movement, I feel like that should be something that is looked at immediately by the design team and find another way to do it. So it is a little bit frustrating that we can't get a good lift on her arm where she has this guard, but it seems like we're not getting a great lift on her arm that doesn't have the guard. So I think that overall, the articulation in her arms is what we've come to expect, and it works great. So her movement, her waist movement is all in her upper body here. You see we get a pretty good bow forward and a really good bow backward. We do have a lot of negative space here, and that's just because of her tiny frame. To get that additional motion, they've got to allow for, you know, if you want her to be able to lean back and bend forward, that's just the way that it turns out. I do still think that this bottom portion could be sculpted narrower and go up a little bit higher so that we could still get that without having to see all of that negative space. But for this character or this figure, it doesn't really look that bad. She also has a waist. Now this is really interesting. So she has turning up here in her, the top portion of her body, her torso, which is normally where we get all of the waist and articulate motion on these female figures. She also has a functional turning waist, which is, I've been saying that there's no reason why we shouldn't get that, and you can see there really is no reason. We haven't been getting that with female action figures where they have both. So having all of this movement up here in the top portion of her torso, being able to turn that and her waist, that's excellent, and I am really happy to see that. It's kind of what I envisioned, and having it on her is really satisfying, and it works really, really well. So she does have this low slung belt here. You can see I've kind of been fiddling with it because it doesn't really stay in place very well. But, and it's got just sort of a pouch on the side, but it doesn't hinder any motion. You've seen that as I've been using her. She also has, now we're looking in the hips here, a rocking from side to side that you can get. At first, when I was playing with her, I was asking myself if that was a production error, but it's not. So she's got a full range of motion in her hips. And so that's what we're seeing here. As you see, when you put the legs all the way up, you obviously can't do that anymore. So when her legs are down, you've got a lean that you can get in the hips. You've got a turn in the waist, and you've got a motion in the torso for incredible action poses. So the amount of movement that you have in her body from the hip all the way up to the neck is double that, almost triple that of what you get normally in a female action figure. So in a lot of ways, that to me makes up for the fact that she doesn't have a turn in the bicep. I'm super happy about it. And then everything else on her is pretty standard. She's got a really great lateral lift, as all of these Joes have. We've got 360 degrees in the hip here, 360 degrees in the thigh. We've got a great knee and a really functional, nice foot that works the way that we've come to expect. Now, it was brought to my attention that one of the things, I talk a lot about how the G.I. Joe collector community wasn't looking forward to a 6-inch action figure. And someone pointed out to me in the comments that actually one of the things from their perspective that kept them from wanting this series was sort of the sci-fi look of some of the weaponry and some of the armor, the gold, the sort of departure from a more traditional looking G.I. Joe. And on this one, I can kind of feel that. While I do like this design a lot, the gold for me is a little over the top here, and you almost immediately begin to see where that's going to be a problem. In her chest right here, I already have some wear. That's just from the plastic packaging. So I assume, I mean, mine didn't have any dents or anything in it, but I mean, who knows? But I've already got the gold wearing. And in places like this on her shin guards, it does feel a bit much to have this teal stripe. We've got yellow, we've got gold, we've got red, black, gray. It's all a little bit much, I think, much more than you would expect from a typical G.I. Joe. They had really sort of, you know, straightforward and direct designs in the past. So that was a new point that I had never heard before. And I really considered it, again, as I was looking at her. And while I can sort of see it here, I think there's a little bit that could be toned down. I still actually just really dig this design. I just like the way that she looks. Now, do I think it's the best look for a G.I. Joe character? Maybe not. Maybe that's what it is. But as a well-designed action figure overall, I think that it's a really cool look. I mean, I'm really going to be excited to have her on my shelf. So I really worked over this character trying to see the thing that I thought was like not correct. You know, she has these little earrings. I was like, maybe that's an issue for some people, but I kind of like that too. That didn't bother me. You know, she has a hair tie painted in. Like, I have a little bit of a paint defect, but other than that, the paint is fine. If you don't like the design choice for the paint colors, that's one issue, but I think it works pretty well. Only the fact that she looks so young and that she's so fair that it's hard to photograph her. It's really hard to like capture her features. I just wish there was a little bit more depth in the skin tone. Other than that, I love this figure. So I'm really excited to hear what you guys think about her, because for me, Scarlett is a straight up and down success. I wish that we could get more articulation in the arms. It just seems like it's not in the technology, right now. The cards aren't in our favor on that one, but what they did with the torso is so impressive. All of the moves, every part of her moves, leans, holds, poses. We've got this awesome dip in the hip. It's just really impressive. And again, I feel like the G.I. Joe Classified series for Hasbro is just knocking it out of the park right now. I'm really happy to have her. I am in the process of getting out with the old and in with the new because I want these Joes on my shelves. So I'm really cleaning house, and she will have a really prominent space front and center. I am happy with Scarlett. I think that she's fantastic. Let me know what your thoughts are on her. Do you think they express the character well? For me, I feel like she should look a little bit older and more world-wise than she does. But it's still a beautiful design, and they painted her very well. So let me know what your thoughts are on this figure. If you love her, if you think that they made some missteps on her, I want to hear everything that you think. And yeah, I can't wait to discuss it with you. So we will be back again on Wednesday looking at Duke. I have another figure that just came in today that I really want to talk about. So there's the potential for a Tuesday video. We will see. I don't want to overpromise, but Wednesday we will absolutely be looking at Duke. And hopefully by Friday, well, Friday will be my toy haul for the week, so we'll be doing that live stream, and hopefully by then I will have some more Joes in hand so that we can continue on this series over the next week, and you guys can keep hearing what we think about G.I. Joes. Alright, so that is that on Scarlett. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Thank you so much for watching my videos, and I will be back again on Wednesday with another one. Bye, friends!